Dear friends, Shabbat Shalom and welcome. It's good to hear your voices. Yeah. We have reached the end of an horrific week of what some have described as the worst atrocity committed against the Jewish people since the Holocaust and the most precarious moment for Israel since its founding. In the immediate aftermath of trauma, it can be so difficult to envision a brighter tomorrow. That may be why our tradition wisely teaches us not to offer consolation to the bereaved while their dead still lie before them. And even now, more dead are being discovered in Israel. During Shiva, we gather in a house of mourning and stand close beside those dear to us so they may feel our strength as their support. We are in Shiva, for these were our brothers and sisters in faith and spirit. And we are a house of mourning, for all Jewish congregations are part of the congregation of Israel. So let us rise now and stand together shoulder to shoulder. And let us offer prayers for healing for those wounded, safe return for those abducted, consolation for the families of those murdered, protection for those serving in Israel's defense, comfort for our people bound together in history and destiny, and health for all those among us or those in your hearts who may be in need of it. We continue on page 126. Let's remain standing.
Rifa'enu Adonai v'nerafeh, Hoshienu v'nivashea, El karov l'chol korav, ach karov lire'av yishor. We pray for healing of the body. We pray for healing of the soul, for strength of flesh and mind and spirit. We pray to once again be whole and not repana. Oh, please heal us now. Refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shalema. We pray for healing of our people. We pray for healing of the land. Peace for every race and nation, every child, every woman, every man. And Marifana, oh, please heal us now. Refuat ha-nefesh, refuat ha-guf, refuat shalema. Heal us now. Heal us now. Heal us now.
Please be seated. In light of today's Hamas global call to action, I was asked repeatedly whether we would be holding services tonight. My answer was unequivocal. Yes, absolutely. If hundreds of thousands of Israelis can mobilize on the front lines in service to our people, we can come to Temple to pray for them. Indeed, we as a Jewish community will do what we always do. We will put one foot in front of the other and keep going. We will draw strength from our tradition. We will draw strength from our brothers and sisters in Israel who today persevere with the remarkable courage with which they have always persevered in the face of terror. We will draw strength from those who keep us safe. And I want to acknowledge the presence tonight of members of the NYPD who are here worshiping with us and watching over us. Would you please join me in thanking them? And we will draw strength from one another, as we did on Monday afternoon when we gathered 800 strong on our Fifth Avenue steps for a service of mourning and solidarity with members and non-members alike. Joining us, too, were friends from the Christian and Muslim communities. As one of the oldest and most visible synagogues in New York, Temple Emanu-El has received expressions of grief and support from so many throughout our city. I want to extend special appreciation to Cardinal Dolan for calling me Sunday to share his concern and love, reminding us that we are not alone. I also want to reflect on a statement he made in support of the Jewish community. A secure and a safe home is surely intended by God for all his children. To have that home attacked is a sacrilege. To defend that home is righteous, the Cardinal said. Those were profoundly important words because for those of us not in Israel, they precisely articulate the message we must affirm and amplify. If history is any guide, it will not be long before the initial groundswell of support for Israel following Hamas's horrific assault begins to wane as Israel recovers its footing and takes the steps it must to rescue hostages and root out Hamas and other terrorist groups. But let us be clear. Israel's response is no retaliation, no cathartic act of vengeance. It is a necessary act of self-defense. To defend one's home is righteous, and Israel has no moral choice but to protect its people and its land by destroying Hamas's terrorist enterprise. Led by America, most Western democracies were firm in their support for Israel this week. But as the war drags on and Israel continues to level Hamas infrastructure and hunt down its agents, that international support will waver, as it always has. So American Jews and all who support Israel must unite around a common message. What Hamas did to thousands of Israelis, and by extension to the country, the murders, the rapes, the kidnappings, were barbaric. There is no moral equivalence to be drawn when Israel responds in self-defense. To have a home attacked is a sacrilege. To defend that home is righteous. We have a very important evening ahead with Ambassador Dennis Ross, who will help us understand the historical context of this moment. But first, I want to call on an individual who has been stalwart in his support for Israel and the Jewish community. Mayor Eric Adams has served the people of New York City as an NYPD officer, state senator, Brooklyn Borough president, and now as the 110th mayor of the city of New York. Not long ago, I heard him speak about his recent trip to Israel and what it meant to him. And then earlier this week, many of us heard him at the New York Stands with Israel vigil and rally outside the United Nations, just one of many rallies and vigils he has attended in recent days, speaking with great moral clarity about Israel's need to defend its people and its land. He has also taken a direct personal role in addressing our local Jewish community's security concerns. The police are present outside our temple because he directed them to be. Truly, Mayor Adams has become one of the Jewish community's strongest shoulders on which to lean, and we are so grateful, and I am honored to invite him to address us now. Mayor Eric Adams.
Thank you. Thank you. I live by one rule. You do not stand for me, I stand for you. I serve you. I'm still the police officer on the beat answering the 911 calls for services, correcting conditions. When you spend 22 years of your life wearing a bulletproof vest, standing on street corners, protecting children and families, there's a love affair you have with the city and the people that cannot ever be separated. I know this community so well. If you were to do an analysis and look where you were during the mayoral election, you would see I received overwhelmingly the Jewish support in the city of New York because we are aligned with faith, family, public safety, and continue to watch our city grow and move forward. And yes, my voice is clear that Israel has the right to protect himself, herself, itself, whatever way we want to define it. That right is built into the spirit and energy of the country and your homeland. And your military operation will accomplish that task. And the New York City Police Department is going to fulfill their obligation here in the city of New York. No one does it better. We will ensure that regardless of the hateful terminologies that are used through social media and other methods and those lone wolves that are being radicalized, we will do our job, seek them out, apprehend, and protect the people of this city in general, but specifically our Jewish residents and Jewish community. We are clear on that. But now our role as a civilian army, what must we do? How do we allow the military operation, the law enforcement operation to carry out their task, and then we will fulfill our obligation? I shared this the other day when I spoke with a group of Jewish leaders. I often use the terminology that there are many rivers that feed something, and there are many rivers that feed the sea of hate. We must dam each river to ensure that it does not continue to flow. And history has shown us how to do that. We have to dam the river of social media and how it continues to spew out hate and allow the radicalizations of young people all across this entire country, if not globe. It was hate that walked into a supermarket in Buffalo and took the lives of innocent people. It is hate that is being used on social media to spread anti-Semitism and all other forms of hate. We must bring those social media platforms into the room and say you have an obligation not to use your algorithm to spread hate, but to stop the spreading of hate. Let's dam that river together. We must dam the river on our college campuses. Our college campuses used to produce academic achievement and geniuses that talked about how do we move our countries and our cities forward. Those college campuses have now become breeding grounds of hate. And we have to be honest about it. We heard the speech from CUNY Law School over the graduation ceremony when you saw from the stage talking about anti-Semitic actions and anti-Semitic attitudes. Every day you're seeing this type of hateful talk and conversations on our college campuses. What happened to the combined effect of our college institutions coming together to fight on behalf? I know the history. I know the role the Jewish community played during the early civil rights era. I know thousands of schools that were put in place because of the benevolence of Julius Rosenwald. I know how young people like Goodwin and Srini was part of the civil rights organizations that gave their lives to it. Let's reignite our college campuses to be beacons of hope and opportunity, and not beacons when we're producing hateful thoughts and mindsets. Then let's dam the river of our entertainment industry. Far too many sports figures and entertainers are using these new terminologies of credible messengers and influencers to spew out hateful thinking in general, but specifically anti-Semitism. Let's bring them to the table and say, use your influence and your power to make sure that you reach in and prick the consciousness of young people across the globe. Let's dam the rivers that don't allow us to communicate with each other. We're doing something called breaking bread, building bonds. 1,000 dinners across the city. Each person that sits at a table comes from a different walk of life, different ethnicity, different gender, different lifestyle. And we're doing something revolutionary. We're talking to each other. We're finding out what a sukkah is. What is a hijab? Why does one wear a kufi? Why does one wear a yarmulke? What is Passover? We live in the most diverse city on the globe, yet we don't know each other. And we need to make sure that we dam that river that keeps us apart from each other. And then let's dam the river that states anti-Semitism and hate is tolerated. We should have a zero tolerance for hate crimes. Those who participate in hate crime should not be able to walk free. We should make it clear if you attack, harm, destroy someone based on hate because of their religious belief, their lifestyles, or their philosophy, you should be held accountable, and we should be uniform in making sure that we don't allow people to walk out of correctional facilities after they participate in a hateful way of living or thinking. We start damming these rivers, we can accomplish great things. And let me share this last thought with you. We made a great mistake. Dr. King marched with great Jewish leaders. I know the JCRC. I know great people like Michael Miller and others. But what about our children? Jordan needs to know your son and daughters. We thought we could stop after my generation. We need to make sure our young people are part of this cross-pollination of ideas and beliefs. We need to hold creative events that bring and foster us to come together. It is our responsibility to correct the pathway that we're in. There's a darkness is hovering over not only our city, but the globe. Something is wrong than when you have attacks of the magnitude we saw in Israel, and young people were celebrating on the street because of what the DSA promoted and carrying pictures of swastikas and saying exterminate the Jewish people. Something is dark, something is sadistic, something is demonic, something is wrong with that in the city of New York, where we have the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. If you don't feel safe here, where else can you feel safe? We have to change that course. I'm committed. I'm ready to dam the rivers. And I'm ready to have a new flow, a flow where we come together. And we should be the beacon for the entire globe. What happens in New York should cascade throughout the entire country and cascade throughout the entire globe. This dark moment, this painful moment, We must turn it into a purposeful moment. The army would do their job, and they would secure and protect the country of Israel. Now we must do our job and ensure that we don't continue to see the grooming of people, and young people in particular, feeling as though hate is the only way to go. Love is the light I seek. Love is the light I feel here. Love is the light we should pursue. May God bless you. May God bless the people, the state of Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all you do for us and for this great city. The governor's office, too, has expressed full-throated support for Israel and the Jewish community. We are privileged to welcome tonight Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. Prior to becoming Lieutenant Governor, he served in the United States House of Representatives, representing New York's 19th Congressional District. Last Rosh Hashanah, he and his wife, Lacey Schwartz Delgado, herself an important leader in the Jewish community, worshiped with us. So we are honored to welcome the Lieutenant Governor back tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado.
Thank you, Rabbi Davidson, to Mayor Eric Adams, to the Ambassador, to everyone here this evening in the spirit of love and solidarity. I live in Dutchess County. It's about 2.5 hours north of the city. It's where I'm raising my 2 little boys, identical twins, 10 years old, with my wife, Lacey. Our boys are in the 5th grade. And when they were in the 4th grade, I had the ultimate pleasure of being able to try as much as I could on a daily basis to walk them to school. This was a dream of mine that I had for many, many years. The school was just around the corner from where we live, not a far walk, about 5 minutes. But since they've been 5th graders, they started walking on their own with their friends, getting a little more independence. This morning was different. I was on the road, but Lacey decided that she wanted to walk them to school. For those who don't know, my wife is Black and Jewish. She comes from a long line of New York Jews from Eastern Europe who came to the States through Ellis Island. Our boys are Jewish. And today, she shared with me there was a palpable fear in the air when she walked our children to school. When she got to the school, there was a group of Jewish parents checking in on each other. We're hurting, and we are grieving, and the fear is real. My heart is heavy this evening, and I say this not just as your Lieutenant Governor, but from a far more intimate place, as a husband and as a father. The unspeakable acts of evil and depravity committed against our Jewish brothers and sisters in Israel are beyond comprehension. The sheer brutality, ruthlessness, and complete disregard for human life, for the life of our children, shakes my soul to the core and to no end. Hate. Hate is what brought all of this to bear. Hatred of Jews in this instance. But make no mistake about it, hate is indiscriminate. Hate is the enemy of life, of peace, of love. It is ignorant, it is diabolical, and it is destructive. Hate has been unleashed, and it continues to terrorize. But I come to you this evening knowing with every fiber in my being that hate is not who we are. It is not our essence as human beings, no matter where we come from. For life is love, and there is nothing more natural to the human heart than to love. In this time of profound grief and agony, please know, as Dr. King once preached, that love is the most durable power in the world, the greatest force in the universe. In these dark days, let us hold on tight to the light of love and find strength in its infinite power. With love in my heart, I stand with you this evening and always. The state of New York proudly stands with you and will do so always. And this administration will do everything we can to ensure our Jewish community is protected and supported always. And we will do everything that we can to ensure that all New Yorkers from every walk of life, no matter the religion, are protected from hate and supported with love. I want to thank the NYPD for surging additional resources to schools and houses of worship and key neighborhoods across the city. State police have increased patrols and outreach within Jewish communities across New York as well, including synagogues, yeshivas, and Jewish museums and cultural centers. State police are also working with local law enforcement to track threats posted on social media. And I want to assure you all that at this time there are no credible threats to New Yorkers. But we will remain vigilant. We will look out for each other, and we will get through this together. The Jewish community in New York, in Israel, and around the world will have my unwavering support. Hate in any form will not have a home in New York. And in closing, I want to leave you with some words from the great Dr. King that I think are incredibly instructive in this moment. He says, "Oceans of history are made turbulent by the ever-rising tides of hate. History is cluttered with the wreckage of nations and individuals that pursue this self-defeating path of hate. Love is the ultimate force that makes for the saving choice of life and good against the damning choice of death and evil. Therefore, the first hope in our inventory must be that hope is going to have the last word." God bless.
Thank you, Governor, so very much for those words, for your presence tonight, for all you do for us and for our state. I also want to acknowledge and thank the Executive Vice President of the New York Board of Rabbis, Joe Potasnik, joining us tonight. Rabbi Potasnik has been a rock on which my colleagues and I lean. We're so grateful to you, Joe. In addition to speaking out for Israel, there's another responsibility we as Jews accept, and that is to find ways to be supportive of Israel's needs on the ground. And I would like to call upon our wonderful temple president, Harris Diamond, to explain what it is that, thanks to you, we are doing.
As I said on Monday night, I wish we were meeting at a different time, in a different era, perhaps, one where peace is everywhere, where all could worship in peace and all could feel comfortable and secure in peace. But today, as we all know, the state of Israel has been under attack, and it continues to be under attack. I'm really proud of what our philanthropic committee did on Saturday afternoon. Daniel J. Dale, as many of you know, our chair, reached out that afternoon and said we must immediately begin to divert our resources and raise additional funds for the needs of the people of the state of Israel. Many of you responded to our special plea, our special fund, which is online. It is still ongoing. And I'm pleased to say that tonight, with the agreement of our trustees, we have made contributions to two of the most immediate needs that we believe the state of Israel needs. One is to an ambulance, and I'm also proud to say that Mayor Bloomberg has also matched our gift. And second, to the hospital in Ashkelon, which has had so many of the wounded and hurt brought to it. It is the major facility in that part of Israel, and it will continue to be the major facility as the operation on Gaza unfolds. We will continue to utilize funds as the weeks go by from both our special request and in addition from our philanthropic fund. But I'm also excited and pleased to tell you that in addition to the dollars we're sending, our Parents Association of our nursery school, got together this week and along with our Tikkun Alum Committee, decided that they also wanted to help. And with the benefit of El Al, which has donated cargo space to us, I'm pleased to tell you that we are in the midst of a drive that you can go online to see how you can help to send immediately needed medical and other supplies to the state of Israel. This is a drive that we are doing. It is one that our children are active in, and we also set it up so you can donate through Amazon. In fact, so many people tried to donate through Amazon that apparently Amazon had a problem with the address, and so I'm pleased to tell you that later today we decided that you could send it to us direct. That's online also, and we'll make sure it gets to that plane on Tuesday or Wednesday when the plane takes off. But all due to El Al and the thanks of our two committees. The work that these committees are doing, a lot to be proud of here. The work that these committees are doing will continue, as will all the other work that we are doing in the temple, including to reach out to so many of our members who unfortunately have lost loved ones in the state of Israel and or who know of people who have lost loved ones. And so if you're in need of support, I urge you to reach out to our clergy, which is always available and will always be there for you. Finally, I'd like to thank Lieutenant Governor Delgado, the Mayor, and Ambassador Ross for being with us today, and of course Cardinal Dolan, who, as Josh has pointed out, sent his words of encouragement and sent folks to speak to us on Monday evening. Their comfort is obviously greatly appreciated by all of us. I wish you all peace, solace. It's a tough time, but we are doing our best to help the people of Israel at this moment in time. Thank you.
I invite you now to turn in your prayer book to page 52. In darkness, we kindle light, a symbol of hope and strength, of God's presence and Sabbath rest. And so it is with joy that we welcome our B'nai Mitzvah, Edgar Cohn and Frederica Brodsky, and their families to come forward to light the Sabbath candles in anticipation of their B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Frederica and Edgar, on the table before you are two gifts from the congregation and our leadership. One is a certificate marking this Shehechianu moment in your life, in your Jewish journey, and the other is a Kaddish cup, which we hope will always be overflowing with blessings. May you both go from strength to strength and blessing to blessing. Join me in wishing them Mazel Tov.
Mazel tov.
As we continue with Baruch Hu on page 117, we invite you to rise as you are able.
Baruch Hu et Adonai ha-mevorach.
Please join me. You direct the play of creation and light the skies with the sun and moon and stars. Every day and always you continue to create this world anew. The light from the sun illuminates our days, but the light of your Torah shines at all times. You gave us your Torah to teach us how to live. Blessed are you, eternal God, who guides us with love. We say together, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We continue together. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thy heart. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. Thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God. I am the Lord your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God.
כמוך פעילים, אדוני, מי כמוך נטר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, עושה פלא. מלכותך ובניך בוקע ים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך פעילים, אדוני.
Please rise as we turn to page 120.
Adonai sepataiti ufi agita hilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, v'Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Agadol Hagibor v'Nora, Elion Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. Infinite is your power, O God. You uphold the falling and heal the sick and free the captive. Dear God, strengthen those who protect our holy land, soldiers and civilians alike. Liberate the kidnapped, among them babies, infirm and elderly. And may every captive soul return without their bodies and souls being ravaged by horrific acts. And liberate those trapped in their homes in fear. Grant them inner strength and resolve. God, send your mercy to the anxious mothers, pained fathers, to the children locked away in shelters, to all desperately awaiting news of loved ones. Shield all who pray and work towards Israel's promise beneath the wings of your presence. We praise you, God, the source of life and strength. You may be seated.
Amen.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Blessed is the eternal God, the source of peace. We take a moment for silent prayer, offering the words on each of our hearts.
לו יהי, אנא לו יהי כל שנבקש לו יהי. May it be, please, may it be all that we seek, all that we ask for, may it be. These are the words from the chorus of a very popular song by Naomi Shemer, written in 1973. 50 years ago, on Yom Kippur, Israel was attacked from all directions, prompting the birth of this song. Lu Yehi became the anthem of the Yom Kippur War and one of the most beloved and famous songs in Israel's history. Shemer probably meant the phrase Lu Yehi to mean, would that it were, or if only, a prayer, a wish, rather than a suggestion to just leave things alone and let them take their course. It's chilling to note that in 2023, 50 years after the Yom Kippur War, that we still need to call upon this melody and these prayerful lyrics to help us move from barbaric terror to a prayer for peace. עוד יש מפרש לבן באופק מול ענן שחר כבד כל שנבקש לו יהי ואם בחלונות הערב או נרות החג רועד כל שנבקש לו יהי לו יהי לו יהי Hallelujah, kol shenevakesh lu yehi. Ana, kol shenevakesh lu yehi. If from the dark of night about us there shines forth a blessed star, then may all our prayers come to be. May peace abide within our lands and strengthen all from near and far. May it come to pass, may it be. Lu Yehi, Lu Yehi, Ana Lu Yehi, Kol Shenevakesh Lu Yehi. Kol Shenevakesh.
When we planned this night, it was to be in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. Of course, we had no idea just how poignantly the echoes of that war would be felt 50 years later, almost to the day. I can't think of a single individual I would rather hear from to help us understand the context of the current crisis and anticipate what happens next than Ambassador Dennis Ross, long one of my heroes for devoting so much of his life to peace in the land I love so dearly. Today, Ambassador Ross is the counselor and William Davidson Distinguished Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Peace Policy. He also teaches at Georgetown University's Center for Jewish Civilization. But for more than 12 years, Ambassador Ross played a leading role in shaping U.S. involvement in the Middle East peace process in both the Bush and Clinton administrations. He was instrumental in assisting Israelis and Palestinians to reach the 1995 interim agreement. He also successfully brokered the 1997 Hebron Accord, facilitated the 1994 Israel-Jordan peace treaty, and intensively worked to bring Israel and Syria together. Later, he served 2.5 years as Special Assistant to President Obama and as National Security Council Senior Director for the Central Region, spending the first 6 months of the administration as the Special Advisor on Iran to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Ambassador Ross was awarded the Presidential Medal for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service by President Clinton, and Secretaries Baker and Albright presented him with the State Department's highest awards. He is the author of 5 books on the peace process, the Middle East, and international relations, most recently, Be Strong and of Good Courage, How Israel's Most Important Leaders Shaped Its Destiny. He was awarded the 2015 National Jewish Book Award for Doomed to Succeed, the U.S.-Israel relationship from Truman to Obama, and he has published extensively on the former Soviet Union and arms control, which were among his areas of responsibility before his focus shifted to the Middle East. I do want to thank our member, Rick Solomon, for bringing the ambassador to us tonight. Now would you please join me in welcoming Ambassador Dennis Ross.
Thank you. I think it's fair to say that 50 years plus one day, nobody expected that we were going to see a replay of what we saw on October 6, 1973. But that's exactly what we saw. This was not a case of conventional armies attacking Israel. It was a case of a non-state actor. And I can imagine as you sit here, you ask the question, how could it have happened? How could Israel, having suffered a strategic surprise 50 years before, how could it suffer again the same kind of strategic surprise? I want to explain why I think it happened. I want to explain the incomprehensible, why Hamas was doing what it did. And then I want to talk a little bit about what Israel does now. All of us, I think, are shaken by it. You know, this is a week where probably everybody here knows somebody who was affected by it. My son made Aliyah. I have 3 little grandsons who live in Tel Aviv. We talk every day now. It is impossible not to be preoccupied with what's happening there. So how did it happen? Like any strategic surprise, if you had all the facts that you needed to know when you go back and review this, and there will be an investigation, this is not the time for recriminations, but there will be an investigation as to how this could happen. And in a nutshell, I would say the following. Like any case of strategic surprise, in any case, all the facts that you needed to know were there, but you didn't interpret them the way you should have. Why? Because you have assumptions. And the assumptions create a prism through which you interpret the facts. In the case of Israel's military and intelligence organizations, They came to have a view of Hamas, not a benign view of Hamas. They understood its ideology. They understood it is an organization of rejection. But they saw in Gaza a leadership of Hamas led by Yahya Sinwar, who seemed to pay somewhat greater attention to trying to keep at least a semblance of some kind of economic floor. Increasingly, Sinwar wanted Gazans to be able to work in Israel. Gazans who work in Israel, and Israel was allowing 20,000 a day into Israel, they make 10 times what they could make in Gaza if you could be employed in Gaza, and there's 50% unemployment. There was a sense that Sinwar was not giving up his ideology, but he had a sense of responsibility as it related to the day-to-day realities within Gaza. And there were other indicators that reinforced this. A couple of months ago, Israel, given the troubles and the violence and terror in the West Bank, was able to arrest, and actually it sought to arrest and ended up killing one of the leading operatives of Islamic Jihad in the West Bank. Islamic Jihad in Gaza then launched missiles into Israel. Israel then succeeded in killing two of the leading operatives within Islamic Jihad within Gaza, and for 5 days this battle went on. Hamas never joined it. So you're looking at the situation, and what are you seeing? You're seeing Hamas interested in preserving workers going into Israel. You're seeing Hamas not respond for 5 days when Israel is attacking Islamic Jihad targets in Gaza, and Hamas stands down. And then you see, in the last couple of weeks, one of the things that Hamas was doing, it was organizing demonstrations along the border, along the barrier, and this was interpreted as being a function of Qatar cutting off or greatly reducing the monies it was providing to Gaza. And this was Hamas's way of putting pressure on Qatar to make sure this didn't escalate. And at the same time, Hamas was asking for increasing the numbers of those who could work in Israel. What was this last couple of weeks? What was going on? Well, Hamas was actually creating a kind of rehearsing of what they were going to do. They used smoke grenades to go right up to the border, and they were obviously figuring out where was the best place to breach the border. But this was interpreted just like in 1973. In 1973, in the spring of 1973, Egypt ran very large exercises. Israel mobilized to respond. You know, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more in a minute, Israel has a small standing army. It is an army that is mobilized. It draws on its civilian base. And it costs money every time you mobilize. So in 1973, in October, when it looked like the same kind of exercises were being run, the decision was made, this is just an exercise. The Egyptians know they have no possibility of having a military option towards us. They aren't going to go to war. We don't need to mobilize. So they didn't mobilize. Here, this was a rehearsal just the same way, but it was read as this is just Hamas going through the motions, trying to affect Qatar, and it doesn't mean anything other than what we're seeing. So there was no reaction. You had a set of assumptions that didn't fit the reality of where Hamas was. There are a lot of people out there saying that Iran directed this. I will tell you, Iran certainly promoted it. Iran certainly provides the arms, provides the money, has provided training, has created the connections between Hamas and Hezbollah. But did they want this? I'm sure. Did they organize and direct it? No, and I'll tell you why. Israel has so penetrated Iran with its intelligence, so much so that it could literally go into the heart of Tehran and ferret out 55,000 documents, the nuclear archive within the heart of Iran, within the heart of Tehran. This is the kind of intelligence it has. It was able to go in and kill the leading nuclear scientist in Iran, someone who was constantly guarded. It was able to go in and kill the leader of the Islamic of the Revolutionary Guard, who has responsibility for overseas operations in Tehran. If there in fact had been an Iranian hand directing this, the Israelis would have picked up the indicators of it. They would have gotten signals of it. No, this was done by Hamas, but of course, the level of support that Iran gives Hamas is what makes this possible to begin with. So why did Hamas do it? They did it because it's who they are. Every time I hear people say, well, gee, if there was just a chance of peace right now, this wouldn't have happened. I mean, nobody spent more of his life trying to promote peace than I have, and I can tell you, in the 1990s, every single time we were making real progress, every single time we were getting close to an agreement, what did we face? We faced a bomb from Hamas. It isn't the absence of peace that motivated Hamas. It was, just like in the 1990s, the imagery that there was a real chance of a breakthrough between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And why would that be so significant? Because you take the custodian of the two holy mosques, the most important Sunni leader in the Sunni Muslim world. The Sunnis make up 85% of all Muslims, and they're in a process, by the words of the Crown Prince, saying we're getting closer to normalization every day. Here you begin to take the religious content out of the conflict because the custodian of the two holy mosques is making peace with the nation state of the Jewish people. That's huge psychologically, it's huge religiously. But it's also huge in another way. Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran are part of a network, basically, of those who have failed political systems. What does Iran succeed at? Iran succeeds at building drones, which they give to the Russians, building cruise missiles, ballistic missiles. What else do they succeed at? What do they export? They export failed states. Their own public is completely alienated from them. The public within Gaza is alienated from Hamas. There is go home and look up on YouTube something called Whispers in Gaza. This is an animated set of videos where people who live in Gaza, with their voices disguised, obviously, so they don't get killed in response, describing what life is like in Gaza. This got 750,000 views in Gaza. What does that tell you? Hamas doesn't serve the people of Gaza. Hamas serves an ideology of rejection. One of the reasons it is so important that Israel succeed in ensuring that Hamas is never again a threat to Israel is because Israel can't live with the reality of ISIS on its borders. Let's understand that. I'm going to repeat that. Israel can't live with ISIS on its borders. Would we? When people talk about what's going to happen as Israel goes in to Gaza, and it will be terrible. There will be a terrible toll that is taken. Palestinians are going to pay a price once again for what Hamas has done. But Israel's not responsible for that. Hamas is responsible for that. If we had ISIS on our borders, you'd know what we would do. When we went to destroy and defeat ISIS in Raqqa in Syria, in Mosul in Iraq, how did we do it? We unleashed what was an unbelievable, continuous, intense bombardment of the cities. We didn't go in on the ground because we had the Syrian Democratic Forces, mostly Kurdish, going on the ground. We provided all the air support. We're the ones who did all the air to ground. They're the ones who rooted them out. The cost when Israel does this is going to be very high, not just to Palestinians, but to the IDF as well. Israel isn't doing this because it wanted to do it. Since 2009, the Israelis basically had a posture, and the posture towards Gaza was one, okay, we know who Hamas is. We understand that. But you know what? we can manage this. The terminology is we mow the grass. Every couple years, we'll have a conflict with them because they're not going to change who they are. Every couple years, we'll have a conflict with them. But it's manageable. And the cost of that is much less than the cost of going back into Gaza. Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. You know what Hamas did when they withdrew? They kept attacking. First 6 months after Israel left, they were attacking the crossing points. The crossing points into Gaza from Israel, what did they provide? They provided food, water, all sorts of commodities. This was a kind of lifeline for Gaza. And Gazans could work in Israel. The crossing points were not a favor to Israel. They were for the well-being of Gaza. And what does Hamas do? They attack the crossing points. So Israel reduced the crossing points from 6 to 2. Who paid? Who suffered? People in Gaza. So Israel today understands what they tried to do. Withdrawing wasn't enough. Managing a reality with Hamas where every couple of years you accept a certain price, they now know they can't do that any longer. And when I say Israel knows, I mean left to right. When Hamas went into Israel, when it went into Israel, what was it doing? Did it distinguish between Israelis who favor peace? Did it distinguish between those who don't, who think we should be wiping out Hamas? They drew no distinctions at all. They went in to simply kill everyone they saw. What sort of a movement, what sort of a cause kills babies? It's incomprehensible. What sort of a movement goes and rapes women and then kills them or takes them back as hostages? What sort of a movement takes an 85-year-old woman in a wheelchair back into Gaza? We are dealing with what is the equivalent of ISIS. And one cannot expect Israel to live with it next door. And you now have, from left to right, everyone in Israel has the same attitude. We cannot live with them. We are going to have to decapitate them. We're going to have to disarm them. Whether they can fully replace them or not, Israel will have to think about the day after. The one thing we've learned is when regimes are changed, you create a vacuum. And the vacuum gets filled. Now, Israel doesn't want to stay there. The whole idea of going back in and reoccupying Gaza is the last thing Israel wanted to do. It will probably end up in a situation where it either reoccupies Gaza for a while and then you create some kind of interim administration, and you create an interim administration where you tie complete demilitarization to reconstruction. There will be a massive need for reconstruction in Gaza after this. But it cannot take place unless there has been demilitarization and there is a mechanism from the outside that is credible that ensures whoever emerges in Gaza, or God forbid that in some form Hamas comes back, they cannot rearm. If you create that and a new basis, a new reality in Gaza, that actually can create a different set of possibilities for the future. If Hamas is seen as losing decisively, the prospect of the Saudi-Israeli breakthrough will come back. If Hamas is seen as somehow winning, then that ideology of rejection will be given an enormous boost in the region. Hamas will have an ability to claim, you see, our way works. Look at the pain, look what we did to the Israelis, and we succeeded. Why did Hamas take hostages? For two reasons. One, to deter the Israelis from what they're now going to do, and two, to trade them for Palestinian prisoners. This was going to be their great victory. They prevented Israel from coming in, so Israel couldn't defeat them, and they were going to have trophies. And those trophies would be the testament to the success of their ideology. And that would have put the Saudis and everybody else on the defensive in the region. There cannot be an outcome where Hamas is seen as winning in any form. There must be an outcome where Hamas is seen as having decisively been defeated, so that what they did is a lesson for everyone. Coming out of this, there is a possibility of a real change for the future. But we will have to endure the process, which will be a difficult one over the next few weeks for sure. And I haven't even said that there could be a northern front. There could be a northern front, which will make things much harder for Israel. Hezbollah has 150,000 rockets, 75,000 of them can reach through all of Israel and carry heavy payloads. 1,000 of them have precision guidance. If you end up with Hezbollah really coming in, this is a conflict that goes on for a couple of months at enormous cost. The net result will be the destruction of Gaza and Lebanon. No one can look at that and feel good about it. We have to remain focused on what is going on. We have to understand what is happening in Gaza. Rabbi, you said there will be a change in the attitudes. There will be, as the costs of this occur, as the images on social media of what happens within Gaza becomes more prominent. But we have to keep our eye on the ball. We have to frame the issues the right way. The first way to frame it is to say, no one would live with ISIS next door. The second way is to make it clear there has to be unconditional release of hostages. Keep repeating that. This is a way of reminding the world, look what Hamas has done. And the third point has to be, Israel cannot live in a situation where it faces an enemy determined to constantly kill it next door. Keep repeating these 3 points, and we will be able to frame this issue in a way that is understandable and avoids this issue of moral equivalence. Rabbi, what you said about this is not retaliation. It is not retaliation. This is self-defense to ensure that Israelis can live without the sense that someone's going to come knock on their door and gun them down, or in some of what happened when the Hamas fighters or terrorists couldn't break in, they simply set the houses on fire. This is who they are. There wasn't a shred of humanity that was seen. This is what has to be constantly reminded to everybody internationally. In the end, we may well come out of this with a very different trajectory and with a very different sense of possibility. That's what we also have to keep in mind as we look ahead. This is daunting. It is shattering in so many ways because the Israeli military was caught unprepared. It wasn't just an intelligence failure. It was because the Israeli military was built up on the northern border because of provocations from Hezbollah, and built up in the West Bank because of what were daily acts of terror and violence within the West Bank. And this border was left largely unattended. There was a sense there couldn't be a surprise, that Israel would have time if there was any real threat. Well, it turned out they didn't. But you should also know the heroism of those who fought them greatly outnumbered, which is, think of it, those who were there were greatly outnumbered. And yet they fought back, and I will conclude with this. All the divisions that existed within Israel beforehand, they have disappeared. It doesn't mean, as I said, there won't be recriminations later on. There will be. This was the darkest day in Israel's history. There will be. There will be accounting. There will be accountability. That's what democracies do. But today in Israel, the reserves who get called up, they're oversubscribed. There has been a higher turnout of reservists than at any point in Israel's history. You look at what's going on within the country, you have lines that go on for blocks of people giving blood. You have people giving money because there are shortages of material, not just in the hospitals that you're now giving to in Ashkelon, but even in terms of reservists not having bulletproof vests. All the hospitals need more material. The public in Israel is coalescing to provide that. And obviously they need help from the outside. But this sense that there is no choice, that we're all in this together, that feeling is profound. And one of the reasons you now have a national unity government again is to demonstrate the unity on the one hand and to send a signal to Hezbollah. Because Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah made it very clear that what was going on in Israel was a sign of its weakness. He saw the divisions as a sign of the weakness. No doubt Hamas did as well. A national unity government sends a sense of A, we're unified, and B, it's part of restoring Israel's deterrent. One of the reasons Israel, in the end, will succeed, even at very high cost, is because it has to restore its deterrent, and if it does, you'll find that deterrent has benefits not only in terms of preventing future conflicts, but it will also help to create the climate in which those in the Arab world who already understood, as you see in the Abraham Accords, why it is in their interest to build a relationship with Israel, because they want to build a future for their own people that has a sense of possibility and offers prosperity. Thank you very much.
Page 231.
Let us adore the ever-living God. We render praise unto you, who spread out the heavens and establish the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Va'anachnu koreim umishtachavim umodim. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz.
The Israeli poet Rachel writes, "They alone are left us, they alone still faithful, for now death can do no more to them. At the bend of the road, at the close of the day, they gather around us silently and they walk by our side. This is a bond nothing can ever loosen. What we have lost, what we possess forever." These words have a chilling resonance during a week when a widowed father wept in relief that his 8-year-old daughter was killed by terrorists rather than be kidnapped by them. For now death can do no more to her. And these words also carry a bombing resonance. As we look at these candles, these flames on the steps of the Bima, one for every known victim of Hamas's savage violence this past week. They gather around us silently, and they walk by our side. Their bodies have been killed, but their souls are an eternal blessing. We will carry them with us in our prayers and most essentially, in our refusal to despair as we move forward with the determination to create peace in this aching world. It is not customary for us to light memorial candles here at services. When we suffer a loss in our family, we light a memorial candle in our individual homes. Well, this week, the Jewish family suffered an enormous, terrible, horrifying loss. And we are separated from them by miles and by oceans, but we bring them close by lighting this memorial candle in our shared home. They will always be with us. We also draw strength from beloveds among this community who have died in recent times or during this season in years past. And so we call to blessed memory Frank Arnold, Itai Bausi, Jacob Birnbaum, Robert Block, Gilbert Boaz, David Brooks, Joyce Bookman, Alan Clare, Shirley Cohen, Marion Dorfman, Toby Fagenson, Richard Fishbein, William Green, Stephen Greenbaum, Lillian Greenberg, Elizabeth Browse Guevara, Michael Hennig, Rabbi Regina Jonas, Esther Kay, Gerald Kleinman, Aida Kanop, Beatrice Levine, Sam Levine, Sarah Levitt, George Marlowe, Jeanette Marmot, Irving Meltzer, Gloria Roberts, Joseph Shatteridge, Irving Siders, Gladys Siegfried, Samuel Stolman, Muriel Tartak, Oscar Wayne, Alexander Zakin, Pauline Zagodny, William Zagodny, Beatrice Zuckerman, George Zuckerman. If you lost anyone due to the terror in Israel this past week, we invite you to stand. If you have lost anyone in recent days or weeks or months, we invite you to stand. If you are observing a yahrzeit, we invite you to stand. And now together, as an entire community, gathered in comfort for one another, we offer the words of our Mourner's Kaddish on page 245. Yitgadal vayitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei decho beit Yisrael, ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yit barach vayishtabach vayit pa'ar vayit romam vayit naseh vayit hadar vayit alev vayit halal shemei dekudusha barichu la'ela min kol bircha tava shirata tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn as we comfort each other and bring healing to all who are here on earth. Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom once again. Tonight, as we stand together with Israel, we are so glad that you stood with us. Your presence here, whether in person or online, is so meaningful, and your voices each add strength to our people. I want to re-extend our thanks to Ambassador Dennis Ross for your teaching, your insight, and your wisdom, and to Lieutenant Governor Delgado and Mayor Eric Adams. We are so deeply moved by your ongoing support for Israel and by your steadfast solidarity with the Jewish community. I also want to thank Dr. Gadi Levy and our Stryker Center for helping us organize this beautiful, beautiful Shabbat as we stand together with Israel. Thank you. Tonight and always, Temple Emanu-El is a house of prayer for all people, and all who would worship with us in peace are most welcome in this house of God. A few brief announcements for the upcoming weekend. First, our Shabbat worship continues tomorrow morning with Torah study at 9:15 and Shabbat services at 10:30. And this Sunday at 11 a.m., we hope you'll join us for Emanu-Welcome, a community fair in which representatives from various programming groups will be present to help you learn about the many, many ways to get involved in our vibrant temple community. For more information about what I've mentioned and so much more, please head to our website, emmanuelnyc.org. Finally, for those of you who are worshiping with us in person, we would ask that you kindly leave your prayer books on your seats before you go. We continue now on page 246 with Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon inchilanu, zikaron למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר לציון מצרים. We sing together. כיוונו בחרת, ואותנו Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
We now turn our hearts and our souls to the east as we rise for Hatikva, page 262.
Kolot baleva penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulfatem Mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia, Olaf Batikvatenu, Batikva bat shnot alpayim, liotam chofshi be'artzenu Zion, Yerushalayim, Leotam Chofshi be'artzein, Eretz Zion ve'Yerushalayim. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Shalom.
May you feel God's presence within you, and may it give you an abiding sense of peace, peace for yourself, peace for Israel, and for the entire world.